Hello everyone and welcome to what I consider to be perhaps the best game that was played in round 1 of this year's Tata Steel chess tournament. Maybe not the best in terms of how precise the moves were or how computer like they were, but from a fighting standpoint I think this is the finest one, and a lot of you have recommended it, so I decided it's a good idea. Praggnanandhaa versus Nodirbek Abdusattorov. But before we check out this game, I will briefly mention two other games and what happened in them, as they are, well, just very, very interesting. So this is a position from the game Garikrishna versus Arjun Erigaisi, and bishop to d4 was played. And the next couple of moves will show you just how precise the game was and how also interesting it was. Rook to d8 was played, attacking the queen. Queen captures on d8, Harikrishna sacrificed the queen, and after queen captures, bishop captures on g7. Opening up an attack towards the queen, Arjun saved the queen, and now the bishop also captured the rook. And after pawn to e3, a nice Zwischenzug, f captures, king captures, and f8. This is the position where, it's definitely playable by both sides, but white will always be a little bit better. And in the end, Harikrishna was able to win this game. So this is what happened in the Garikrishna Arjun game. And also one game that was really, really interesting is Leon-Luc Mendonca, who won last year's Challengers edition of Tata Steel. So now he plays in the Masters. Had a very, very promising position against Vincent Keymer, and he was almost there. He played queen c5, which is the best move in the position, going after that h5 pawn, but Vincent completely confused him. He played rook to g6, and with, sorry guys, you don't see the clock times now, but Leon had 2.5 minutes on the clock, Vincent had 6.5 minutes here, and a rook to c1 was played, which loses terribly because Vincent set a very, very deadly trap with rook to g6. However, even with a lot of time on the clock, it's not easy to win this position, regardless of what the engine says. The engine doesn't even say it's winning. It says that white is better and you should play for a win. Point being that after queen captures an h5 check, king to g8, you have to find the only winning idea, that is bishop to d4. And now the point is that after bishop captures on g2, you have this very, very tricky queen captures on g6. And after queen captures, you will capture on g2 and connect nicely with the pawn on g7. Black can save the queen, but it doesn't matter. Rook captures on g7 check. If you go to h8, you go under the mask of the bishop, and then a nice rook e4 will pick up the queen. And if you go to f8, then it's a matter of a simple mate into rook f1 check. The queen can be given up wherever, and after rook captures, it will be checkmate. So very, very promising for last year's winner of the Challengers edition, but after Vincent's rook to g6, I guess he confused him as he played rook to c1, and here Vincent said thank you for the game, just played queen captures on h3, and here Leon-Luc Mendonca resigned. There is no defense against rook captures on g2. Also, by playing queen captures on h3, the h5 pawn is defended, so there is zero counterplay here. So very sad for Leon, but obviously very, very good stuff for Vincent fans out there. And now we go into the game that I decided to analyze thoroughly, Praggnanandhaa versus Nodirbek Abdusattorov. Let's check it out. It's quite an impressive one. Pawn to c4, opening up with the English, we have pawn to e5, knight c3, and a bishop to b4, going for the so-called Kramnik-Shirov counterattack of the reverse Sicilian of the English. Knight to d5 attacks the bishop, and now usually everyone retreats the bishop here, but nowadays with the use of powerful engines, we know that a5 is what the engine prefers, and Prague versus Nodirbek, they don't mind brawling it out amongst all of these nasty engine lines. So knight to f3 puts pressure on e5, d6, we have pawn to a3 attacking the bishop, and the bishop to c5, e3, and pawn to c6. All been played before. Knight to c3 is one way to play it. Prague goes for pawn to d4, attacks the bishop, bishop to a7, and now knight back to c3. And the position has been reached before. For example, queen to e7 was played in a number of games. For example, Rachmanov played it against Yanni Pomnishi. losing the game, but still, it is possible. It's actually the second move recommended by the engine, so it's not the problem with the move. And also, it was reached in some other games. For example, Vishwanathan Anand defeated Nepo in this position. Caruana defeated Hans Niemann in this position. So still very, very known territory. Knight to d7 was played, and now we have queen to c2. We have knight g to f6 and bishop to d2. And here, after castles kingside, there is only one game in the database. It was played this year, but it was a blitz game in Biel between Alexander Donchenko and Jonas Bulbier, and Jonas won this game with the black pieces. So let's see how it goes. We have castles queenside. They are following that game move by move. Rook e8, h3, pawn to e4, knight to h2, and now closing the center with pawn to d5. And this is where we take a different path from that game. C captures on d5 was played by Donchenko in that game, which is the top move recommended by the engine, but here Pragg goes for pawn to g4. He wants a race. We have castles on opposite sides of the board, so he wants to attack on the king side, whereas Nodirbek will attack on the queen side. Let's see what happens here. And you can see that both of them are playing fairly quickly. Nodirbek a little bit faster, but still getting to this position within hour and 21. Definitely good stuff. And of course, it is now as of move 14 that we have a completely new game. D captures on c4, and now pawn to g5. We have knight to d5, and now knight captures on e4. We have, attacking the knight once again, queen e7, threatening to capture the knight, and knight back to g3 by Pragg. And now that he sort of slowed the attack on the king side, he's ready to pursue his own attack on the queen side, and he goes pawn to b5. Pragg goes knight to f5, puts pressure on the queen and on that g7 pawn, and Nodirbek goes queen to e6. Queen to f8 would have been a bit more precise, as it also fights for that attack on the queen side. The problem with this is probably he was worried about pawn to e4. With queen on e6, you have full control over the e4 square, but even after e4, you have knight to b4. Of course, it's easy now with the help of our silicon friend, but after captures, I mean the pawns, the rook here, it just looks very, very good for black. So here, after knight to f5, queen to e6 was played, also a very good move. But now pawn to h4, as pawn to e4 has been prevented, and now pawn to c5. Here, you don't have b4 because bishop h3 is just very, very annoying with some knight h6 check, followed by winning the queen, and so on. So here, Nodirbek goes pawn to c5. We have bishop to h3, and now, as he freed up the 6th rank, queen to a6. We have pawn to h5. Pragg continues his attack on the king side, and Nodirbek strikes on the queen side. Pawn to b4. We have bishop to f1, pinning the c pawn to the queen on a6, and now c captures on d4. We have bishop captures on c4, attacking the queen, and now pawn to b3. Incredible, but the move is I would say more aesthetically pleasing than it is a precise one. Point is that queen to c6 here, although makes very little sense, it's actually impossible to parry. Point is that after, let's say you play g6, let's say f captures, let's say h captures, and let's say knight to e5, putting pressure on the bishop, you will move the bishop, and the point of it all is just to trade queens. For example, captures, b captures on a3, and there's just no good reply here. If you trade, for example, d3, cuts off the bishop from the defense of the knight on f5, and you're just going to lose a piece here, end the game. So it's a really complicated line, but it is one that would have been necessary. I guess Nodirbek was... he did have a full hour on the clock, so probably he was trying to get Pragg as low as possible, and he played it quickly. Pawn to b3, which again, it's not a mistake. It's a second top move recommended by the engine. It's just that queen to c6 is, game over. Queen captures on b3, and now knight to c5. Again, offering a queen trade, but again, this one cannot be accepted by Pragg. If he trades here, this comes with check, and after the king moves, you will also capture on d2, and it doesn't matter what white plays. For example, you capture on c8, d captures on e3, and after, let's say, knight captures on e3, you will play rook a captures on c8. This comes with check, king captures, and now after you trade here, captures, and bishop captures on e3, king e2, you will also capture on g5, and And yes, you're up only one pawn, but with the position so open, with the black rooks already in action, and with black having a bishop versus a knight, play being on both sides of the board, this is completely winning for Nodirbek. So that's why Pragg cannot agree to this. He moves the queen, queen a2, and now knight to d3 with check. Again, Nodirbek being very precise here. If Pragg captures, queen captures, there's no defense here. Whatever you play loses the game pretty much on the spot. Let's say you play knight captures on d4, which seems like a good idea. You get the knight into the defense. You can just capture it, and after he captures, bishop f5, and that's it. How are you stopping checkmate? If you play b3, yes, you stop it for the moment, but rook a to c8 with check, and that's it. Let's say king to b2. Queen captures on d4 with check, and no more squares for the white king. You have to give up the bishop, and this will be checkmate. So after knight to d3 check, king to b1 was played, and now bishop captures on f5. Again, threatening some very nasty discoveries while giving up the queen on a6. Now, although it looks very flashy and very spectacular, it's merely an offer of a queen trade. You know that knight to b4 check followed by knight captures on a2 is coming, but still, I find this extremely aesthetically pleasing. So bishop captures on a6 was played by Pragg, and it is the top move that white has. If you don't play this, you're gonna struggle. Maybe king to a1 is an attempt, but still, I mean, it's hard to decline the queen with 15 minutes on the clock and ticking. So Pragg does invest some 4.5 minutes, captures the queen, and now knight 3 to b4 with check, opening up a discovery from the bishop. King to a1, and now knight captures on a2. We have king captures on a2. Now d captures on a3, f captures on e3, and now Nodirbek did everything that is humanly possible to win this game, but it requires one more move, one more finesse to finish the game, and this one, I believe, was the hardest move to play in the entire round one of all the games that were played. So have at it. Feel free to pause the video, give yourselves a few seconds and find the only winning move for Nodirbek while I give you a couple of seconds. So, for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding a move even the great Nodirbek couldn't find. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is bishop to e4. That is the move the only move that, if it's possible even to survive this game, it would be by playing exclusively engine moves. But I will show you how difficult it is. Let's say bishop b5. Okay, you want to win back some material. Let's say rook goes attacks the bishop. Let's say you go bishop c6. Now you'll pick up this rook. And now knight to b4 check says, nope, I'm rather going to capture the bishop. Bishop captures on b4. Bishop captures on c6 with an attack on the rook on h1. And now after bishop, because the bishop here is still hanging, so you have to play bishop to d6, attack the rook on b8, and now rook to b5. You actually have to win a pawn to win this game. And after rook to h to e1, now you'll just capture on g5, and that's it. You couldn't defend it because then the e3 pawn hangs, so it's better to defend the central pawn. Here, it's still possible to somewhat leave drawing chances after pawn to h6, but finding all this plus pawn to h6 with 10 minutes on the clock, I would say it would be extremely, extremely difficult. But also finding bishop to e4 and all of this was extremely, extremely difficult. So Nodirbek played knight captures on e3. Again, it's the second best solution, but one that does not win by force. Rook to c1 by Pragg, and now rook a to b8. He's now ready to go after the white king, and Pragg could just play rook h to e1, but no, Pragg actually goes after the a pawn. And now he has 2 pawns on the queen side, Nodirbek has none, so Pragg all of a sudden has maybe an appetite even to go for a full point here. We have knight to c2 by Nodirbek, and now bishop to c4. Bishop to d4, putting pressure on that b2 pawn, and now pawn to b3. Even this is possible. I mean, it's a completely crazy position because we have 2 sets of bishop pairs on the board, and it's impossible to calculate. And here, rook e to c8. Here, probably Nodirbek could have still pushed for the full point with rook to a8, attacking the bishop, and if the bishop moves, you have rook captures on a3, but it's still possible to really complicated with knight to f3, attacking the bishop with ideas of rook captures on c2, removing the defender of the bishop, and if bishop to c5, now you play rook captures, bishop captures, and pawn to b4, claim that the two connected passed pawns on the queen side will be sufficient compensation for the sacrificed exchange, but still, it's not just that you're down the exchange, it's that your opponent still has the bishop pair, so I don't think it would be possible, but yeah, probably it would be extremely hard to win this. But here, rook e to c8 was played, and now rook h to f1, forcing a trade, as if the bishop moves, you're going to lose that f7 pawn. So knight to e3 defending the bishop, and now just rook captures on f5, giving up the exchange. Knight captures and pawn to g6. Again, Pragg finding ways to complicate. H captures, and now knight to d6, defending the f7 pawn while attacking the bishop. G captures on f7, king to f8, and now much better than capturing the pawn and opening up lines. Bishop to b4, now threatening to capture the knight. And while you could defend with something like bishop to c5, in the game, rook captures on b4 was played, giving back the exchange. But even if you try to keep the exchange, you can't, because bishop e6 attacks the rook and also puts a double attack on the bishop on c5. And after some like bishop captures on b4, you'll play bishop captures on c8. Let's say rook a8 goes after the a3 pawn. It doesn't matter. Let's say bishop goes back to e6. You're going to play bishop captures. Now rook to c7, and there's just not a good discovery in sight. For example, bishop b4 check, you're going to go king to b2, and if knight b5 attacking the rook, you have many moves at your disposal, but also you can just trade rooks, and that's it. Equal material, this is a dead draw. So after bishop to b4, rook captures on b4 was played, and time control was reached. Both players have now played their 40th move. A captures on b4, knight to b5, now trying to exploit that the rook on c1 is undefended, and king to b1. We have knight to a3 check, king to a2, and now look at this, knight to c2. Nodirbek complicating until the very end, offering a full piece, but of course Pragg knows that he cannot take it. If he captures, rook 8 check, king to b1, and the rook to a1 would be checkmate, as the rook would be blocking the king's path towards the c2 square. So after knight c2, king to b1 was played, and now knight to a3 with check. We have king to a2, knight to c2, we have king to b1, and knight to a3 check. And he was in this position on move 46 that the players agreed to a draw, or rather it is objectively a draw by threefold repetition. So I know maybe a little bit weird choosing a game that ended in a draw for my game of the day, but I mean, if you've seen those lines, and I've only analyzed some of them, this could have easily been a 30-minute video, maybe even a 40-minute one. I thought I discussed the most important lines, so hope you guys enjoyed that. But yeah, I also decided to briefly show what happened in the other games, so you guys don't feel you're missing out on anything. So yeah. That's the game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Very much looking forward to round 2. If we'll get half the excitement from round 1, I will be very happy to show all the games. I would like to thank Ryan Canus, Isaac Pinol Katadao, Everett Mulder, Simon Maxon, and Stan Bayu for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions, but mostly covering the Tata still until it finishes. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And if you haven't seen the Gukesh Giri game, first link in the description below, do check it out. See you soon.